A little bit concerning there, I'll be honest, because Chris was with us. Then he had to change things around because the lighting was a bit sinister and his internet connection kept dropping out. He looked like a Bond villain, I'll be honest with you. No offense, Chris. Good morning to you.
Hey, greetings from my secret lair, Gareth.
Look at this now. Our listeners will be able to see this later on because we put all these videos up on Facebook. But a new location. You've exchanged the small little, I'll be honest with you, pathetic bookcase behind you. And you've got, wow, you've got a massive plant. You've got a bigger bookcase.
It's a shrubbery. I mean,
look at this. It's a cross between an academic's office and a doctor's surgery.
Hey, that's right. That's a good image to be using, right?
And is that sort of the start of a fireplace next to you there?
And then there's a fireplace going on down. Yeah, oh, my wife had a birthday this weekend, so we have some birthday cards out. I moved the birthday cards along because I didn't want that to be distracting.
The only thing you're lacking is a cat on your lap that you can stroke whilst you do this morning's presentation. So we've had a lot of people. I wanted to read this message to you, actually, because this shows in radio, when you get messages like this, it shows that you're really hitting the spot when people actually, well, first of all, they take notice of what you're saying. But we had a message in this morning and we're asking the question, how was your weekend? What was good about it? What was bad about it? And Paul and Lucy, they were in touch to tell us that the good point of their weekend was the fact that Lucy, she did a sermon at church and she purposely added in the origins of the word Torah to illustrate her point. So it's working, Chris. You're educating us all.
Great. Well done, Lucy. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Now, the next challenge is that we need to make notes of all the words that you're using. And then by probably the new year, we need to put them all in one big conversation. And that would make us sound really clever.
Oh, yeah. Or a greatest hits compilation we can produce.
Now, that's what I call Chris 2022. It could be on the album. So just tell us a little bit about Moorlands College, because it's important that we know. And whilst we were at CRE, if you didn't know that we were there, then we were. That's basically this massive exhibition. And we met a lot of your team, actually. We met Karen. She was there.
Yeah. And Ellie, I think, would have been there as well.
So, Ellie. And there's a photograph knocking around somewhere of me on your stand. And I don't know where that is. Have you seen this yet? Do you know of its whereabouts? Do you know why it was taken?
Do you know, I haven't seen it yet, but this is the kind of thing that gets used at some point in our social media campaign. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing that one, Gareth.
It's the sort of thing that can be used eventually as sort of bribery, I guess. So who knows? Keep an eye on the socials for that, and it will be cropping up somewhere. But Moorlands College, Chris, tell us about this.
Yeah, we're down on our main centre is down on the south coast, but actually we do have regional centres, and Moorlands has moved around, actually. Do you know, Gareth, Moorlands began actually up in the north, and at that time it was in Matlock, and it was called Matlock Bible College. That's when it began in the 40s. And then we moved around to different locations. And what was interesting is at one point we were down in the sort of area of Devon, surrounded by moorland. But when they made the move, they had a load of stationery with MBC on it, Matlock Bible College. And they didn't want to just, it'd be bad for the environment, right, just to throw away the stationery. So they wanted to carry on using the stationery, but they'd moved location. So instead of being Matlock Bible College, at that time, they changed the name to Moorlands Bible College because they're in the region of the Moorlands in Devon, Exmoor and Dartmoor. Now,
so seriously then, it was done that because of the amount of merchandise that they had?
Yeah, I think it was a stack of stationery. That's
Brilliant.
Hey, this was like the 1950s, though, and people throw things away so quickly. So MBC was kind of like the initials that stuck. And we've subsequently moved 2 more times since then. And now not only have we got the Christchurch campus, but we've got other locations around the country and in Belfast. And we've continued the MBC initials, though we don't tend to use the word Bible now. We are a Bible college, but as Moorlands College, the emphasis there with Moorlands College is that really we're a college that teaches applied theology. And that's a broad subject. It's theology that can be applied to chaplaincy work, to youth work, to prisons ministry, overseas mission. So applied theology is a subject that gives people really not only a good training and grounding in the Bible, but also a passport. It's a doorway into all kinds of areas of ministry. We have graduates who'll go on into teaching, education, the fire service, the police, all sorts of areas of life. And in any area of life, theology is relevant. The understanding of the Bible can help us to do ministry in any kind of area of life, whatever our calling might be.
Moorlands.ac.uk is where you need to visit to find out all about their courses. And another person who's heard you on the radio, does the name Gary Birch ring a bell?
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Gary Birch has been tuning in, and he says it's so great to hear that Moorlands are on there, because I used to go there, and Chris is as fabulous in person as he sounds on the radio.
Gary, you're so kind. Thank you for the encouragement.
It's always awkward, isn't it? Because if you get praise, it's like, where do I go with this? Sort of say, yeah, thank you, move on. So we do a word every Monday. Chris brings us a word, and we had Torah. That was one of them. Was that last week or the week before, Torah? Right. Yeah. So what word have we got this week, Chris?
So this week's word is a word you may think is simple, but there's a little more to it, and it's the word worship.
Okay, so the word worship, when you use that, when you hear it, what does it mean? And you can get in touch with us. Chris will give us the true meaning of it soon, because I know for a fact that what you're thinking right now is wrong. Because our worship show, I had this conversation with the presenter of it, Jez, and I won't give too much away, but anyway, you let us know what you think it means. You can email studio@konnectradio.com. That's studio@konnectradio.com. Or you can simply go to our website and you'll find all the links there. The social links, you'll also find a link to WhatsApp there. Send a message through, and don't feel stupid if you don't know what it means. Just have a guess, because nobody says as many stupid things on the radio as I do, and I'm the host of it. So if I can do it, then you can. Send it across. What does worship mean to you? What definition have you got in your mind? You're not allowed to Google. If you do, we'll know, and we won't be happy with you. Chris giving that true definition after this by the Blossoms is called I Can't Stand It. So worship, what does it mean? Get in touch with us, and we'll have the true meaning and definition next. That is the Blossoms with I Can't Stand It. And maybe, hold on, cheesy link coming, and maybe you can't stand the anticipation of wondering what the definition is. And we can say goodbye to Alan Partridge there. Hi, I'm Gareth. So Chris from Moorlands College, he joins us every Monday. And he brings us a word, and sometimes it's a word that people just simply don't know what it is. I mean, if I'm honest, last week, the word Torah, I knew that it has talk about vague. I knew it had something to do with literature. That was about it. But it was great to find out the true meaning behind it. And today, you may think it's an easier word. You'll have heard this used somewhere in some way, shape, or form. And usually it's tied to a religious meaning, the word worship. So just before we go to Chris to tell us what the true meaning is, Irene's been in touch, and she says, morning, Gareth and the team. To me, it means to recognize and practice love for others. That's an interesting one. We've also had, let's have a look here. We've had a message in from Amy who says, I think worship just means to sing and dance. And also we've had Tracy's been in touch to say worship, giving praise to God. And we've had Ian who's been in touch with another one. You see, I've got them on so many different screens here. I'm flicking through them all. Says, to me, it means music. And Lynn's been in touch to say worship, it means to adore something or someone. So any of those right, Chris? Any of those even slightly correct?
Yeah, Gareth, let's say they're all in the kind of ballpark, but not quite. Not quite right. Okay. The word worship, I mean, there's a broad word here, and to think about what it means, it's worth remembering actually that in Greek and Hebrew, there's actually about 4 different words that get translated as worship. So actually there's a very sort of meaning behind them. Actually, if you look it up in an English dictionary, it's likely to say something like to venerate something. The trouble is, what does that mean? I mean, that doesn't really answer the question.
I was about to say that when a definition leads to a word that you need that definition for, you get caught up in this strange situation of, I've been led to one word, I don't know what that means. So venerate.
Exactly. And you turn up venerate and it means to worship. So you're in an eternal loop in the dictionary. You know, there's a number of words, and the English word really means to give worth to something, to give worth to something. But the most common Greek word for worship is to come forward to kiss, proskuneo, to come forward to kiss, which is really indicating that worship is much more than singing a song. In fact, really, the word worship is not to mean to sing a song. That would really be praise, the singing of songs. It's not about going to church. Biblically, it's not about going to worship in that sense. It's not about attending a meeting. That's not what worship means. Worship means to acknowledge God, you know, who he is, to serve God, which is another word that's translated worship, actually, the word serving, ministering, assisting. And this coming forward to kiss takes it to a whole nother dimension, Gareth, because it means it's not just about serving with a sense of duty. You know, I've got to do this, so I'll get my head down and I'll get on and do it. It's about love. In fact, I think Irene said that right at the beginning, actually, in the answers that were given. Of course, not just about loving other people, it's about loving God. And that coming forward to kiss, it might mean something like the kind of respect of bowing down before somebody who is so special that we would kiss their outstretched hand. It might also mean the familiarity of a kiss that brings you so close. And during this whole period of a lockdown and so on, the last 18 months, how much we have longed to be close to people. You know, we miss out on the hug or the handshake or whatever. And in the Mediterranean world, of course, that kiss on the cheek, it's a real way of having real physical kind of connection with people that we love. And so worship is about acknowledging who God is, serving God with all we have, and being in a relationship of true love with God. It's not primarily about singing songs. Of course, singing songs might be one way of expressing it, but so might washing the dishes today, or the way you drive your car, or the way you do a radio show, or the way you go to work and treat that grumpy colleague who really annoys you on a Monday. How you respond in those situations is all part of worship. And Gareth, one other thing, what this also means with the word worship is everyone is a worshipper. You know, whether you're a Christian or not, you're a worshipper. The real question is not, do you worship? The real question is, what do you worship? Because everyone's worshiping something. And we can answer that question, what do you worship, by asking, what matters most to us? You know, what is the most important thing in our life? It might be family, it might be job, it might be money, it might be animals. Whatever we think matters most to us is going to shape the kind of people we are. And that's where worshipping the God who's revealed himself in Jesus should shape us into being more like Jesus. You know, we should look like Jesus if we're worshippers. And we should be asking that question, you know, what would Jesus do in any and every situation? Because that gets us to the heart of true worship.
Do you know what? I came to work today, I had a headache, I took some paracetamol, and because of that thinking, the headache has returned genuinely. I think my brain has just had a shock where it's been educated at such a point where I just love, you see, there's a difference. I'm dyslexic and I've always struggled to read things and then take them in. And when I did my degree, yes, that's right, I've got a degree, it was very, very hard to sort of read something and to take it in. But when somebody explained it to me like you've just done, the penny dropped. And it's really amazing because you assume that, you know, worship, it is something to do with religion. And like you're saying, it should be a question of what do we worship? But the word worship itself does not mean to actually worship. Does that make sense? It means that you can do the pots, like you said, and you can do loads of other things, but it's all about who that leads to. Have I just completely ruined what you were saying? And have I set people off on a completely different tangent?
Well, Gareth, you've given me a headache now. I'm gonna go to
Funny enough, my wife always says the same thing about me. But Chris, it was a real joy, that, and it was really interesting. We should have you on for not only a segment, but maybe your own weekly hour on the radio station where you just basically tell us about things.
Gareth, you're teaching me all I know. I want to be.
Oh, no. Don't be saying that, because if I'm teaching you, you're then teaching hundreds of other people. And by about 2030, society will come crashing down. Well, Chris, thank you very much indeed. And you'll be with us next week. Any clues as to what the word is? Because you avoided this question last week by saying, I'm praying on it and I'll see what comes up.
Okay, well, I kind of am praying. I have got a little list. I've got a list actually here in front of me. So there's a number of words, and okay, don't hold me to it, because you know we might want to shift gears or something. But the word I think we're going for next week is church.
That's an interesting one. So church. What does that write? I love this, because now we have some time to think about it and maybe even send our thoughts through, ready for next week. Chris, you take care. Thank you very much indeed. And remember, that video will be on the way. Give us about 10 minutes or so,